How many times have you stopped to realize how much your kindness has gone unnoticed or even overlooked? Have you ever experienced that uncomfortable feeling of realizing that the greater the effort to satisfy, the less recognition you get? Perhaps this relentless need to be seen as good is silently eating away at your essence. Machiavelli, in his brutal frankness, already warned about the cruel reality hidden behind appearances. Everyone observes the facade, few perceive the soul. Something simple and disturbing at the same time. You feel exhausted without being able to clearly identify why. It's as if you are always balancing invisible weights, maintaining harmonious relationships, avoiding unnecessary friction, being empathetic beyond your own strength. Ever since you were little, you've been convinced that being good is enough, that in the end, the honest and humble are rewarded. You've been told that the universe, in its supposed justice, will reward your virtues. But what if this discourse is just a comfortable narrative, a silent primer to keep you docile, predictable, easy to lead? How many times have you silenced your truth in the name of reassuring others? How many tears have you kept in silence, repressing sorrows and swallowing grief so as not to disappoint those around you? How many humiliations have you disguised with calm smiles? Kindness, so exalted, may have turned, without you realizing it, into a camouflaged prison. Observe the world around you. Notice clearly. It's not the good who win respect or recognition, but the cunning, those who understand the game. You've already felt this deeply when you realized that your constant generosity only led to higher expectations and diminishing returns. The more you adapt, the more you are charged. The more you seek approval, the less you value your own existence. And it is at this critical point that Machiavelli comes in. Not as a villain that history has distorted, but as a thinker who dared to expose an inconvenient truth. Idealized morality with no connection to reality is a dangerous hoax. The appearance of goodness does not guarantee efficiency or real happiness. Endlessly seeking approval imprisons your freedom and stifles your authenticity. This is a call to break free from this vicious circle. Break away from illusory expectations. Face the uncomfortable truth. Let's uncover together the hidden face of the need to please. Have you ever felt as if you were living inside a character they've created for you? Always kind, patient, incapable of displeasing? Perhaps you're tired of living in this image that pleases everyone but yourself. It's not a question of becoming indifferent or insensitive, but of waking up to a reality that you may never have been told. Imagine that everything you've learned about kindness, justice, and patience isn't as true as it seemed. That oft-repeated advice that everything would work out just by being honest and understanding may, in fact, just be a well-disguised strategy to keep you in check. The bitter truth is that being good, as you've been taught, has become synonymous with nullification. Being good now means stifling your own desires. It means saying yes even though you want to say no. It means smiling while suffering inside. And the cruelest irony of all is that the more you try to be like this, the further you move away from what really matters, your essence. You've become an actor playing a role on the stage of other people's expectations, speaking lines that you don't even feel are your own. And while the audience claps, the applause is not sincere but convenient, because someone who is predictable, who accepts everything without question, will never pose any threat. And what doesn't threaten, unfortunately, doesn't inspire respect either. Machiavelli already warned with shocking clarity, he who seeks only to be good will inevitably be destroyed by those who have no such limitations. Goodness without prudence is dangerous naivety. In a world where many seek personal advantage, being naive is an open invitation to abuse. Reflect deeply on these words of Machiavelli and the Prince. Let the truth of this reflection bother you, even hurt you, because this discomfort can mean the beginning of a new freedom. Ever since you were a child, you were taught that your value depended on how much you could please, Don't shout. Swallow your tears. Be well behaved. So little by little, you became an expert at silencing yourself, mutilating emotions and desires, believing that you would be accepted in this way. But take up the challenge now and boldly ask yourself, who exactly accepts you like this? Who respects you for being this way? Who really values this image they've built up? Maybe it's time to seek respect not through blind obedience, but through the courage to find yourself again. At the end of the day, even if you strictly follow all the right steps, that annoying feeling of invisibility still remains. As if you had to beg for attention, as if you were eternally owed something. Never quite enough, always almost there. That's the point where everything starts to fall apart. Your kindness has become a prison, a cell adorned with soft compliments, where they tell you that you're so patient, so calm, so understanding. But behind every nice word, there's a silent demand. Keep canceling yourself out for my comfort. And you carry on even when it hurts, even when something inside you cries out for justice. The big mistake is believing that this suffering represents nobility, integrity. You may have the purest intentions, but the world will not see through them. Reality reacts to the attitude you show. Kindness without firmness quickly becomes an easy target. Kindness without strength becomes the favorite food of emotional opportunists who savor your hesitation, your insecurity, and your desperation for acceptance. The more you try to show that you are trustworthy, the more you are used as a mere resource. Not a person with their own value, but an available tool. Have you noticed that those who are truly respected don't waste time justifying themselves? Have you noticed that those who have clear boundaries, even if they don't please everyone, are listened to attentively? Meanwhile, you, with all your patience and solicitude, continue to be interrupted, overwhelmed, and forgotten. This is because the world doesn't revere those who merely please, it recognizes those who establish consequences. Machiavelli never advocated cruelty for its own sake. He was an incisive analyst of human reality. He observed the world without illusions, understanding that blind morality was just another instrument of domination. The person obsessed with appearing kind eventually loses everything, including their own essence. Anyone who refuses to understand the game of life becomes a disposable item. You can offer everything, time, affection, loyalty, but the moment your usefulness runs out, you'll be ignored without remorse, without any guilt. After all, you never demanded any other kind of treatment. The world recognizes clearly defined limits. It doesn't recognize silent sacrifices. The uncomfortable truth that needs to be told now is this: your kindness is imprisoning you, not because it's wrong, but because it's being used against you. As long as you continue to hide behind this pleasant, submissive image, you will continue to deny your real strength, your authentic voice, your true dignity. No one is born desperately craving the approval of others. This obsessive need to be accepted, the dread of upsetting others or provoking conflict has been taught to us. Conditioned from an early age by small reprimands, disapproving looks, veiled criticism that clearly indicated that being authentic was not enough. From an early age, expressing a genuine feeling was enough to be called exaggerated or ungrateful. And so, slowly, you learned to silence, to hide who you really were, painfully molding yourself into what you were expected to be. It all started quietly, almost unnoticed. A fake smile here, an automatic response of everything's fine there, without feeling it, without believing it. These small gestures evolved quickly until giving in. Before anyone even asked for anything, pretending that nothing bothers you and swallowing insults became common habits. At some point, you realized, perhaps unconsciously, that your emotional survival depended on avoiding any rejection. The problem is that this habit of adapting has turned into permanent submission, a cruel automatism of self-abandonment. You've become an expert at sensing what others want to hear, gauging the emotional climate of environments, choosing words carefully to prevent disappointment and embarrassment. But here lies the most painful point. You believe you are being empathetic, when in fact you are being dominated by fear. Fear of judgment, fear of rejection, fear of appearing selfish or difficult. Fear of simply existing fully with clear desires, legitimate feelings, and defined boundaries. While you disguise this fear as kindness, the world interprets exactly what you show: insecurity and fragility. Machiavelli understood this dynamic deeply. He didn't talk about modern psychology, but he saw human nature with surgical precision. He understood that respect comes with consequences and well-defined limits. Those who never impose, never challenge, never set boundaries are systematically disregarded. That goes for you too. Your kindness is admirable, but without a firm stance, you will be seen as a tool, not a person. Generosity without limits becomes exploitation. The worst thing is that no one feels guilty about abusing it, because the world doesn't value gratuitous kindness but immediate usefulness. Notice how people who are considered nice are constantly justifying their existence, running around, apologizing even for breathing. On the other hand, those who set clear boundaries, even if they seem less friendly, are listened to carefully and remembered. This is no accident. It's an emotional dynamic, a clear interpersonal power structure. Submissive people live in terror of abandonment. Assertive people know exactly who should stay and who can leave without harm. Being nice is not synonymous with being good. The nice person avoids conflicts. The good person confronts them directly when necessary. The nice person smiles while suffering silently. The good person expresses clearly, "This hurts, and I don't accept it." Emotional submission is driven by fear. Fear of losing fragile bonds, fear of losing conditioned love, fear of losing a place won only by continually giving in. And the truth, perhaps harsh, perhaps liberating, is this: those who live in terror of the possibility of abandonment have already abandoned themselves a long time ago. If you continue to live in constant fear of displeasure, there will come a day when you look in the mirror and no longer know who you really are. You'll just be the character that everyone wants to see except yourself. Because the price of emotional submission is exactly that, losing yourself completely. Machiavelli would probably say that the essential thing is not to be loved, but never to be invisible or disposable. This recognition only occurs when you are firm in your attitudes, when you clearly say no, when you impose real consequences. Obviously, cruelty will never be a viable solution, but neither will harmlessness. There is, however, a middle way, accessible only when you realize that submission doesn't mean real kindness. It's just conditioning, emotional training that traps you in a permanent state of dependence and fear. You deserve to break out of this emotional prison, but to do so you need to face a perplexing question. Is your kindness born out of genuine love, or is it driven by fear? Because if it comes from fear, it ceases to be virtue. It becomes protection, a shield, an emotional chain that keeps you trapped. And you weren't born to be trapped. You were born to be authentic, complete, and free. Throughout your career, you believed that it was enough to be fair, sincere, and humble for your essence to be recognized by others. But Machiavelli, more than 5 centuries ago, wrote a truth that destroys any simplistic idealism. Everyone sees what you appear to be. Few realize what you really are. This sentence, taken from The Prince, is as shocking as it is revealing. It shows that the world doesn't respond to your inner feelings, but to the image you project, the impact you have on people, the respect or fear you arouse. It may seem cruel, it's certainly uncomfortable, but it's realistic. As long as you live waiting for others to spontaneously recognize your good intentions, you will continue to be overtaken by those who know how to manage appearances very well and play the game strategically. Life is, above all, a game of perception. Machiavelli didn't write to create cold and perverse individuals. He wrote as a guide to practical survival in a world where naivety is easily crushed. There is a way out of this emotional vulnerability, and he begins by redefining the idea of virtue. Not that fragile virtue defended by moralists based on submission and passivity, but a Machiavellian virtue, made up of authentic courage, intelligent strategy, cool emotional control, and a firm, respectable presence. Machiavelli insisted that those who wish to govern their own lives, rather than being governed by circumstances or people, need to clearly understand and assume this new form of strength, capable of balancing genuine goodness with strategic firmness. Liberation begins now, right where you are. It won't be easy. There will be discomfort and necessary conflicts, but the reward is regaining your voice and your self-respect, learning to say no and to impose limits with courage and clarity. Ask yourself honestly, are you going to continue silently pleasing, or are you going to decide to take control of who you really are? True virtue, as Machiavelli taught us, does not mean losing your essence, but finding it again fully, without excuses, without submission, free at last.